Hello and welcome. There is no equal to this man's staying power at the top in Bollywood. Over more than 4 decades, the Big B, as he's known, has become the leading icon of the Indian film industry, with his diversity, charisma and visibility. This week on 101, meet the legendary Indian actor Amitabh Bachchan. He has a record-breaking number of awards and has proved to be one of the most enduring actors in the world. Amitabh Bachchan's life began a few years before India's independence, born into a Hindu Sikh family in Allahabad, Uttar Pradesh. In his 20s, he gave up a stable job in the shipping industry to pursue his passion for acting. Bachchan made his debut in 1969 and went on to become a big star, playing an angry young man with one hit after another. In spite of numerous business interests and even a stint as a politician, Bachchan remains dedicated to the Indian film industry. His name, Amitabh, means the light that would never extinguish, rather appropriate for an actor that continues to shine into his 5th decade in the acting profession. Amitabh Bachchan, absolute delight to have a chance to chat with you.
Thank you so much.
Now, you've achieved so much, it's almost hard to know where to begin. But I guess one of the things I wonder is, having reached the level you have, what is it that drives you nowadays? What is it that motivates you to pick a particular film or to take a particular direction? What's your driving force nowadays?
First, this whole thing about achievement is really a bit too far-fetched. My responsibility should be to my work, to the script, to the people that I work with. I know that once you become a public figure, then many things automatically get attached to you. But that should not be looked upon as a responsibility. Yes, as a public figure, we must conduct ourselves in a manner which is within the law, within certain moral boundaries, and I guess that's about it. Mostly just to be able to do justice to my work and to roles that are offered to me.
You started young in the industry, so you've seen a lot of change. I mean, more than 4 decades of change. How has, in your opinion, how has the Indian film industry changed? The direction it's taken, I mean.
I came in the mid-60s, and obviously there was a lot more restraint in the way people communicated with each other and how they spoke with each other, how they dealt with situations. There was a lot more lyricism in the writing. There was a lot more space given in between shots and so on and so forth. Now life has become a little busy. It's become very fast-paced. And communication has a lot to do with that, whether it is TV or mobiles or telephony or internet. It's everything's at a press of a button. If you were to ask me to compare each generation, I would say it's got largely to do with the way society has moved or the nation has moved. And what was looked upon as having a lot of restraint earlier on, there was time to write poetry or time to write better dialogues or meaningful words. But if there is no time today and people know that, yeah, we know what you're trying to get at, now hurry up and get there. So it will have a reflection on the way you conduct your screenplay.
When you first started out, could you have imagined, remembering how conservative it was, that you would have seen people kissing on screen?
No, not at all. I thought that would never happen in Indian cinema. But, society progresses, and if society is okay with that, if the nation is okay with that morally, that's fine.
For yourself personally, what are the limits as an actor? Is there any kind of role you wouldn't take on? Is there anything you feel is not, is something you wouldn't want to touch?
I think as an actor, one should be tested and tried in anything that comes your way. Once having played leading men, it is expected that you will always play leading men. But there have been occasions when there has been the negative role as well. It's another matter that it hasn't gone down too well. But somewhere it reflects the temperament of the people, what they want their leading man to, or their hero to behave like, to conduct himself, even on screen. And that is now a point that I sometimes consider.
You were born in Allahabad when India was, before India's independence. You were just a boy when all that took place. What are your early memories of that time?
Very vague, because I was too young. Maybe just 4 or 5 years old, but a lot of excitement towards the Quit India movement. My own parents being a very vocal and a very physical part of that entire movement. My father, a writer, a poet, a teacher. My mother, coming from, well, now Pakistan, from Lalpur, Lahore. So bringing with them a lot of enthusiasm, fighting for the independence, living in that era, then the birth of the nation, almost 1947, and to see the excitement of independence and several events. So I don't remember that too much, but yes, you know, through your parents, through the way we functioned, to the excitement of independence, all that, been through all that.
And your family reflected the diversity of India. It was a Hindu and Sikh mix as well.
Yeah, yeah.
In what way do you feel you're influenced by your parents? What are the characteristics you've got from your father?
Well, my mother was grew up and was born in a very affluent Sikh family. My father, my grandfather, my mother's father was a bar at law from Cambridge. Led a very affluent life. My mother studied in Lahore, which was looked upon as the epitome of, you know, aesthetics and beauty and art and culture. Probably still is. And she grew up, you know, looked after by English nannies, and you know, fell in love with my father, who was a very lower middle class man from Allahabad, a very middle Indian town, a poet, a writer, a teacher in the university. And I feel somehow that I had a wonderful mix of both the East and the West. My mother grew up in more Western circumstances, and my father brought in a lot of the East. So I consider myself very fortunate to have a bit of both.
How do they regard, being sort of from essentially intellectual backgrounds, how do they regard your affinity for acting when it first materialized?
Absolutely fine. If they felt that if, you know, this is what you want to pursue, then we must stand by you, and they always were very supportive.
When did they know? When did you know that you wanted to really pursue this?
Around 1968, which is when I wanted to actually come and join films.
And the steps, take me through the steps you went through, because initially it was very tough as well for you.
Yeah, I actually came across, my brother came across an advertisement which was looking out for youngsters wanting to apply for a kind of a contest where they were going to be tested through screenplay and through looks and camera tests for prospective leading men. And this was being conducted by a leading film magazine here in India. The directors and the people involved in that contest were all very prominent directors and makers, and that looked to me a very proper avenue where youngsters could actually get in. Having applied in that and being rejected even in the preliminaries, I felt a little disappointed. But then I gave up my job. I was working as an executive in Calcutta, now Kolkata, and came to Bombay, you know, did the routine stuff, take your photograph, go from door to various producers, meet them, try and sell yourself. And that's how it all began. Did
you have at that time any vision in your mind of how you would like to be portrayed in the film industry?
Oh no, not at all. I just wanted to, you know, just be getting a part. That was enough for me.
What was the film industry like at that time? Because as you say, it was much more artistic in some ways. Mm-hmm. But what were the challenges you faced in those early days?
I'm not saying that, you know, the people of today aren't artistic enough. They are, but I don't think there were any challenges. It's just the initial desire was to somehow get somebody to give you a role, even if it's minuscule, in a film, and then through your talent or whatever it was that you possessed, to be noticed, and then you know, to take it further. So some of my initial roles were very small, and that's fine. I started with Khwaja Ahmad Abbas, who made Sat Hindustani, and I was one of them. And even though it was one of 7, it was a fairly significant role. My next film was Reshma Aur Shera, which was made by Sunil Dutt Saab, and I had, you know, just a 2-minute appearance in that. But I think that it was important to just be in the environment and be working. I never looked at myself as a leading man or a leading hero or a star or anything like that.
Now your son Abhishek has also taken the same path and is naturally, of course, doing very well too. If you sort of, well, do you ever compare notes on the industry? Do you ever find
yes, always. Yeah. We sit and discuss, and there are now 4 people in the family that are all connected to cinema. So yes, of course, the conversation on the dining table or when we are sitting around informally, we do discuss cinema, we do discuss films, we discuss what we're doing next, and so on and so forth.
Are you critics with each other?
Oh yes, of course, yeah. If I see something and I find that it's not sufficiently good enough, or there are moments there where I need to say something, I say it, and so does he. If he sees a performance of mine and feels, I shouldn't have done this or shouldn't have done that, we discuss this.
Do you get a sense that the film industry, especially for younger people starting out, has a lot more pressure in it now than when you started, in the sense that it's so fast?
It is. It's very rapid. It's very competitive, but this generation is like that. There's a lot of aggression, there's a lot of desire and to compete, to excel, to move forward, to prove a point, and they're all doing it at such a young age. That's very creditable. It wasn't so when I started off. Yes, we wanted to compete and we wanted to move on, but I don't think that we were that well prepared as this generation is today. They know exactly what they want to do, they know where they want to go. They know how they have to get there, and they just follow a path, which is fantastic.
We're going to take a very short break here. I have more questions for you. More with Amitabh Bachchan when we return with One on One. Welcome back. You're watching One on One. We're speaking with Indian film star Amitabh Bachchan. In those early days, you were portrayed as the angry young man in the 1970s. How did that come about? How did that come about as a title for you?
These are wonderful titles that media invents. Salim Javed were the writers of a lot of my scripts at that time, and they wrote Zanjeer, which was the film that became immediately successful for me. And many times I used to ask them why it is that they chose this subject and designed a character like this. And they said that those were times in India where the country was going through a difficult phase. It was the time of the emergency. There was a lot of angst and anger amongst the common man, the common people. They felt that the democratic right had been snatched away from them. There was also the feeling that the system was not entirely working as the way they wanted it. And therefore, any individual or any one man that stood up against the system and defied it came out looking good. I just happened to be there at the right time and got that role. So a lot of those films and a lot of those screenplays were designed keeping this individual in mind, and therefore, in order to, in a sense, calibrate that kind of cinema, this terminology was created.
You're known for diversity, though, and you've done a lot of diverse roles over the years. Now, I wonder, what has been your most challenging role?
There have been several, all through. It's been a career of 40 years, and each 10 years has brought in a lot of diversity. But every time there was the so-called angry young man, there was also the comic relief from films made by Manmohan Desai and Hrishikesh Mukherjee. In the more recent years, when I've gone beyond the stage of playing leading men and therefore having the most important role, I'm now, in a sense, relegated to playing character roles, which is commensurate with my age.
Anything personally, though, that you see in your life as a defining moment?
Not really. I think the fact that I changed from being an executive and joined cinema could have been looked upon as a defining moment. Changing a profession at that point in time, getting into an area which was absolutely alien to me, not knowing anything about cinema or film, or even being trained as an actor. This was an absolutely new territory for me. So I would look upon it as that. Yes. There was a little aberration in between when I went into politics.
I was going to ask you about that. 84 to 87, I think.
That's right. I went into politics on an emotional note. Mrs. Gandhi had been assassinated. We were close to the family. The young man who's now taking on the responsibility of running the country was a childhood friend. He asked me to fight an election. I fought. Fortunately or unfortunately, I won. But having done that, I realized that emotion really has no part to play in politics, and it's a much more complicated game, and I didn't know it. So I was completely inadequate for the job, and therefore, rather than impose my inadequacy onto the electorate, I accepted my failure and resigned.
And one thing about politics and acting, the share in common is essentially having the constant public scrutiny. And how over the years have you dealt with all the constant delving into the private life and saying you did this, you did that?
Yeah.
And
I think that comes with the territory. I think that you cannot avoid it. As public figures, we will be questioned, there will be scrutiny. And so long as you know what you're doing is right and your conscience is okay, I guess that's about all we can do. We can answer them or choose to keep quiet.
If you look at, though, some of the things you've had to go through, what, if you were to turn the clock back, what would you change?
Nothing. I would change nothing. Because I think even in my so-called adverse moments, there's always been something that I've been able to learn from it, whether it's a political attack or whether it's a scandal or whether it's financial problems or anything. I'd like to see that they've all been great moments for me to recognize something that I would never have learned had they hadn't happened to me.
You've done a lot of things, though. You've been very diverse again in your being a producer, being a television star. Kaun Banega Crorepati, the Indian equivalent to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You've done the politics and so on. What has been the most fulfilling for you in terms of personal satisfaction?
All of them, really. Even that small stint in politics was a great eye-opener, and I look upon it as a learning graph. I knew what actual India was all about, but having seen it personally, experienced it personally, was a great revelation. And then, of course, the various other mediums that I had an opportunity to go into, television included. Great learning. I mean, television is a massive and a mammoth task, very difficult and very complicated. And the rate it's growing by, it's enormous. It has already overtaken cinema in India. We have 400 channels here, and it's growing even more rapidly. But the amount of energy and the pace and the competition and the amount of work it requires.
One thing I do find that people do complain about in India is the loss of the language, and this combination of English coming in more and more, and the Hinglish, as people refer to Hindi and English. How do you regard that when you have films that have names that literally mix the languages too?
Yeah, it's what the generation is behaving like, and this is a reflection of what is happening in our society. I'm not entirely happy with it, but what can you do? We have a history that connects us to this kind of a phenomena, and we'll have to live with it.
Who are your mentors? Who did you look up to as you were growing up?
My parents, my father in particular.
Any influences in the industry, for example?
Dilip Saab, I always admired him as an actor, as a person. I still do. He still remains my idol. Amongst the ladies, it was Wahida Rahman, whom I always admired as an actress.
Is there a role you still haven't had a chance to play yet? Is there something that you've been itching to do?
I hope there is, because I do look forward to some. I don't know what it is, and I hope that there are people out there who will find something novel for me to do, because I would love to be challenged and get into something that I may not have done before.
Nothing that's been lingering there, you say, well, this is something I really would like to do, even if I have to do it myself sometime?
No, I really can't think of it. I would rather leave that to someone else.
Seeing how it's expanded, the film industry, and very much the domain of the young, irrespective of being such a veteran actor, respected veteran actor, do you find that it's a challenge now for older actors to find the kind of place they need to in the industry?
I would not entirely agree. I think that the younger generation is very open to accepting people of my age. I love the environment. Whenever I'm on set, I'm at least a good 30, 40 years senior to the average age on set. I love their enthusiasm. They give me a lot of respect. They treat me with a lot of friendship, and you know, I like to be one of them. I like to, you know, partake in everything that they do. But I think it's wonderful to adjust to this energy that they evolve on set, and to be with their thinking and the way they move and the way they conduct themselves. It's fantastic.
It's very much about being fit and energetic.
Oh, yeah.
The shapes certainly have changed on screen.
They have, yes, indeed. But yes, a lot of labor to keep yourself fit and energized to be able to keep up with them.
Is there too much flesh? Some people say that, you know, it's losing the picture with the amount of you know, sort of the flesh that's shown in movies now.
This is a personal opinion and an individual opinion. I don't think that we have any right to curb anybody's creativity, so long as it remains within the confines of the law and the censorship and the aesthetics and the ethics and the ethos of the country.
Now, do you get time with your busy schedule? I know you're always flying off, and you will be soon after this interview. Do you get time for hobbies, anything that you want to do personally?
Yeah, well, there's a lot I want to do, but just can't seem to find the time. But whenever I do, I want to learn to play an instrument, maybe a piano or something, or a sitar. I would like to learn some languages, European languages, but more importantly, more languages from my own country. I now blog, which keeps me busy during the later hours of the night. I find that very interesting because I'm able to make immediate contact with millions of people all over the world. And it's such a beautiful concept, and it's such a wonderful medium that I haven't missed a single day ever since I started. I get comments, I get responses, I respond back to them, I write on anything that comes into my mind. I get their opinions. There's some fantastically intelligent people in the universe. We debate, we discuss. There is abuse, there is criticism. It's a wonderful feeling.
Now, I know I could ask your huge fan base how they would remember you, but how would you like your legacy to be? How would you like to be remembered?
Well, just to be known as a good human being, I guess.
Amitabh Bachchan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Riz. Thanks very much.